Hey, everybody, can you hear me? Okay, so I do have a question, Maria. You want me to open this, or are we going to let Paula open it? Who's opening? Paula, are you opening? You need to unmute yourself, Maria. Hang on. I can't unmute you, Maria. You need to unmute yourself. You're still muted. I can't hear you, Maria.
Maria, you're still muted. You just need to push the mute button. There you go. Now you're not muted.
You can.
Nope, now you're muted again. There you go.
Okay. Diane, on the agenda, I'm going to do opening remarks, and I'm going to introduce each of you so they know who you are. And then I'll call Paula, and then I'll call you to say a few words on behalf of the committees.
Okay.
And then it will be Carlos will introduce Zar, and then Zar will take it away.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do I introduce Carlos or?
No, I've taken care of everything. You just
perfect.
Thank you. And we are live on YouTube right now, and we're also live on WebEx.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Diane, I did just go ahead and mute you as well, just to avoid any feedback.
Okay. What I was saying is if we can have everyone mute themselves while others are speaking, so that way we don't have any background noise, especially when one of you is speaking or Zar is speaking. That way all our members and our friends can really hear well and we don't have any background noise. And I'll mention it again too when we start. Thank you so much. Hi, Zar.
Hi, good morning.
How are you, rock star?
How are you?
Good, good. We're all ready.
All right. This platform looks a little different.
It is, I guess. Well, did we do, I can't remember last time if we did a Zoom or a WebEx. I think we did a WebEx, didn't we? Or no? I don't remember.
I don't know.
Well, this should be exciting today.
I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we're excited you're with us as always.
Well, thank you for having me. All right, let me get this.
Good morning, Mr. Zar.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good, thank you very much, Artemis.
Zar, welcome. It's Paula. By any chance, can you get taller? Because you're like lost.
Oh, sure. Let me move my chair up a little bit.
We can't see your handsome smile.
All right, is that better?
Much, much better. Yes.
All
yes,
right.
better.
Excellent.
And Emily, we're going to zoom in on the speakers when they speak, correct?
Once the session begins, I will take down this PowerPoint slide, and it'll be everybody will have big faces again.
Okay, great. Thank you.
COVID hair.
I was going to answer. I'm like, no, it's not. And then I'm like, wait, we're not in the same room. Sarah, congratulations. I know you sold, I think, a $3 million house yesterday, and then you listed a $30 million house. And then I'm like, I cannot keep up with him. Carlos and I were talking about that. I'm like, oh my goodness.
We did very exciting. We've listed a very big property, and one that I sold almost 10 years ago to the day we relisted it. Yeah, so it's super exciting. That was a property that we quietly listed and sold 10 years ago without ever talking about it or putting it in the MLS or anything. It was just a very quiet transaction. Yeah, so it's very exciting to list it again publicly this time.
Well, I think the key, and I'm going to mention probably this at the end, to you is the fact that you're real and you just go for it. You're nice to everybody. And good things come when people help others. That's from everybody on this panel. That's the way they work. They're nice to people and it comes back in bunches and bunches and bunches.
Well, thank you for saying that. But yeah, I think it's important to treat people the way you like to be treated, and it comes back sometimes. It's nice when that happens.
True, true, true.
Zar, are you seeing the effects of the fires where you are in Las Vegas? Is there any effect?
No effect other than the fact that there's a lot of smoke in Vegas. It's very, very smoky in the valley, but we've had a couple very, very windy days that have helped clear out the smoke a little bit. So it's been welcomed.
We have feedback. Do we know what that feedback?
It might be because not everyone's on mute. And I'll mute myself to start.
Paula, good morning. Look at me. She doesn't.
A blue jacket too. Blue and a
Yep.
scarf. Right on, Crystal.
Just for you.
Thank
Good
you.
morning, Zar. Thanks
Good.
for having you. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, we're going to get started in just a moment. We had a couple of people that were trying to get into the WebEx. Some are joining us via live YouTube feed. So we've got two tracks here. We have the live YouTube feed with the bulk, and then we have the WebEx. Those on WebEx will be able to ask questions. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started here. First, if the panelists could please remember to mute yourself unless you're speaking so that we don't have any background noise. Have a little bit of background noise right now. And let me start by saying good afternoon and welcome. I'm Maria Grulich. I'm your Director of Global Business as well as your Diversity Liaison. And this is going to be a big, big welcome from our superheroes of President Barry Grooms and his entire leadership team of Cheryl Lambert, Christina Pappas, Mike McGraw, Kia Arvin, Tim Weishire, and of course our CEO, Margie Grant. We had so many calls, messages, and texts asking to bring Zar back that we had to do it. He was so popular and an amazing speaker. He's not only an amazing person, but an amazing friend. And I feel blessed that he's willing to do this for us and to have him as a friend as well. What we've asked him to do is do something similar to what we had him do for Diversity and Global last time. And that is to talk a little bit about himself and how he has overcome diversity and things in his life to be so successful, but also to share those stories, because honestly, what everybody loved the most, and I told him this yesterday, was his personal stories. Everybody was like, oh my gosh, I think some could relate to it, and it was just amazing. We will also have questions at the end, so please feel free to write any questions in the chat box, and we're going to try to get as many of those answered as possible, so that you can learn a little bit more about Zar and be inspired, because that's what this is about. This is about being inspired and knowing that you succeed. Everyone can succeed, and we want to bring you positive meetings. So first, what I'd like to do is welcome some of our key panelists here who are amazing leaders that I've been blessed to work with this year and call family, because to me, everybody's family, as you know. And they are Paula Angelopoulos Urbanati, Miss Opa, the Global Business Chair, and Diane Pittman, who's done an amazing job as the Diversity Chair this year. And then we have Crystal Silver, an amazing job as Global Vice Chair, and Carlos Alayan, who is also an amazing Vice Chair for Diversity. And all of them are going to pitch in and help today. So, but I did want to make sure that I introduced all of them. And now what we're going to do is we're going to have Paula say a few words from Global Business. And then after that, I will ask Diane Pittman to do the same thing. And then we're going to, without further ado, we'll be bringing Zar in to speak. So Paula, if you could lead us off, please.
Thank you, Maria. Opa, everybody. This is Paula Angelopoulos Urbanati, and I thank you, each and every one of you, for being here. Global has been outstanding this year. We had to make a lot of changes, and you were there each and every time we needed your support. Thank you for always messaging. Thank you for all that you do to make Florida Realtors Global such a wonderful committee, wonderful outreach. And we are so excited to have Zar today. And we can't thank Maria Grulich, who is our amazing, as she said, introducing everyone. Everyone is amazing. Well, she's amazing. Thank you, Maria. Maria, take it away.
Thank you so much, Paula. And I'd like to now have Diane Pittman, our amazing Diversity Chair, say a few words from Diversity. Thank you, Diane.
Now I got myself unmuted. It has been my great pleasure to be the Florida Realtors 2020 Diversity Chair. We've had a very active year despite COVID, by the way. I am blessed to have Carlos as my vice chair. He has been, as Maria puts it, amazing. And to have Maria, my dear Maria, as our liaison has been wonderful. Working with you has been a true pleasure, Maria. You make things easy. So I couldn't agree with you more, Paula. This year has been amazing because of these people. And we've had some great events, and Zar was one of them, and we're really happy to be part of bringing him back to Florida Realtors again. I'd like to share a phrase I heard on my company's leadership event this morning with you, if I can, about diversity and inclusion. Diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Maria. And thank you, Zar, so much for being here. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you.
Now I'm going to put someone on the spot because I just spotted him on the grid. He doesn't know that I just saw him, and there may be others out there. I'm keeping an eye out for our leadership team, but I did spot Mike McGraw, our amazing treasurer. So, Mike, would you like to say a few words to our group?
Thank you, Maria. How you doing? No, it's good to be on this event, and I'm looking forward to hear what Zar has to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, so much. Now I'm going to turn it over to our amazing diversity vice chair, Carlos Alayan, who has the pleasure today of introducing our keynote speaker, the celebrity realtor to the stars, Zar. Carlos, take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. I have the pleasure of introducing a wonderful person, Zar Zanganeh, today. He started his career in real estate as an intern at the age of 15, handing out cold water to open house goers and taking calls for an agent after school. He plays a very active role on the executive board of the Aria Las Vegas and is former national luxury chair and a national speaker. He holds the record for selling the most homes in Southern Nevada and the record for the most homes sold over $10 million. For 7 seasons, he's been the host of the Star Properties on Celebrity Page TV, which is seen all over the world and the US and many international markets nightly. He volunteers to the Nevada Partnership for the Homeless Youth, as well as sits on the board of directors for Nasri Academy for Gifted Children. Nar and his team is responsible for over 250 sales per year in the Las Vegas market, and each year they break records for the most expensive or highest price per square foot. He has had some notable clients, which include CEOs, celebrities like Prince, Michael Jackson, Mariah Carey, and many others. He's been called many names, like Realtor to the Stars, the King of Vegas real estate, and even the Persian Prince of real estate. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the one and only Zar.
Thank you so much, Carlos and Maria. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. I'm so happy to be back with you guys and to just have a casual conversation about real estate and how to follow your passion and get started in whatever your niche is going to be. And mine, I've been very fortunate to carve out a niche in luxury and to work with amazing people such as celebrities and the ultra wealthy CEOs and those type of folks. And it's a marketplace that did not come easy to me, but it's something that I was very focused in and wanted to work in for a very long time. And it took me 7 years before I got my first $1 million listing, but it's something that I was very focused in. And as I mentioned last time, it's not something that came naturally because I didn't come from a wealthy family. I didn't fit the regular mold. I wasn't the age, the demographic, the race of the average person that sold all the multi-million dollar homes in Vegas. Usually those people were 2, 3 times my age. They were all Caucasian, and they were all living in country clubs and already pretty well established. And I had to find my way into that marketplace. And I had a unique way of doing it, and it's the way that most people tell you it doesn't work, or you have to be born into that group. You have to live in those communities in order to achieve that. And I just didn't want to believe that because I was very focused on wanting to get into that marketplace. So it took 7 years of a lot of hard work. And as a 19, 20, 21-year-old, you're naive and you think, well, if you just work hard enough and if you try hard enough, if you learn everything, if you know the comps, if you know the neighborhoods, if you know everything you're supposed to know, of course, people are going to hire you. And at some point, you realize a lot of it is who you know, not exactly what you know. And that's the part that was the connection for me that I needed to make. One of the things we didn't really get to talk about last time, but Maria knows this part of my history, is how that came to be. In Florida, the economic downturn in 2007, 8, 9, 10, when we were the REO capital of the country. I worked at a luxurious firm as a young agent. I started off as an intern, And as the company was getting ready to shut down, I was too young and naive to notice that the company was definitely getting ready to close their doors. And as they were eliminating management, I think they realized I was too young and stupid to realize that. So they kept giving me more responsibilities as a manager as they were getting ready to terminate positions, close locations, and eventually close their Nevada operations down. And that luxury firm was slowly closing their doors, but we had a lot of socialite women who worked at the company, who sold 1 or 2 houses a year, but had a real estate license and wanted a place to hang it. And they saw real estate more as something social than a career, and they didn't need the income to survive. Obviously, they just needed a place to hang their license. And as the company was closing their doors down, I had become the youngest broker manager of the franchise, and I was running the company for the last few months it was around. And as we finally were told, hey, you have so many days to move your license and go work somewhere else, I started researching other places to go work. And every place you looked at in that time frame, you realized this brokerage is not paying their rent. This company is filing bankruptcy. Where should we go work? And that's when I determined I should maybe open my own brokerage. Not because I've ever wanted to be a broker, but because I didn't know where else to go to work. And there were rumors that companies weren't cutting their agents' commissions and they were all failing. So out of pure necessity, I opened my own brokerage because I thought if we're ever going to make it, and if we can make it now, we'll be thriving when the market gets better. And although I was starting to get a little bit of traction, I was nowhere near getting big multi-million-dollar listings at the time. And a lot of the people that were at the brokerage that sold 1 or 2 houses a year would get a house because of the people they knew, their neighbors, their own properties. But they weren't really go-getters because they didn't have to, because they were busy with their own lifestyles. So I started a company and I said, let's all be partners, equal partners. I will do all the hard work. I'll do all the heavy lifting, but you bring in the clientele and I will split things evenly with you. And that was one of the ways that I kind of bought my way into getting into the country clubs and the social events and the charity events that were $10,000 tables at different organizations, whether they were political events or fundraisers, charity events that I didn't have the means to get into. And that was an instant way of gaining access to the clientele that I really needed to get close to, that for years I couldn't figure out how to gain access to. And after a few years, I started working with those clients, and I was happy to just be working with those clients. I didn't think about the paycheck being split 3, 4, 5 different ways. I was just happy to be doing the work and having access to that clientele. And splitting the paychecks when they came was no big deal to me because it's an opportunity that I did not have in any case. And I was happy to be selling a $2 million house versus a $300,000 house because the paycheck at the end of the day, a big paycheck split 4 or 5 ways, was the same as an average paycheck I would have made on a much smaller transaction anyways. And eventually all those people, the ones who were hard workers, wanted to stay at the company, and the ones who were just doing it as passive income, they ended up leaving the company or choosing different careers, getting married, moving away, and they were happy to leave their clientele behind and accept a referral fee for years to come. And that's how we built up a clientele, in addition to all the organic ways that I built up a clientele. And that's something that I didn't get to share with you guys last time, that Maria kind of knew a little bit about. I think you're muted, Maria.
Sorry, Zar. Zar, tell them the story, and you told this last time, but I thought it was very important for them to hear the story of when you were outside showing another house and a young man came up to you. I think that's important, and stories like that, because I think that shows how important it is to be inclusive and include everyone and see everyone as a potential, not only maybe a client, but a friend.
Well, yeah, I think, in our marketplace, at least, and it's usually the same in every marketplace, there's usually 4 or 5 people who handle the majority of the bigger listings. And it's the same 4 or 5 people. And if it's one of the colleagues that we most often work with, you don't always ask that person for proof of funds. But I've always noticed there's probably about 10-15% of buyers that are represented by agents that you don't work with every day, by agents that may not do multi-million-dollar transactions all the time, but that's still a nice big percentage of the buyer pool that are agents that you may not be familiar with, but you should take a chance on them sometimes. And most often we cut them off by saying no proof of funds. We don't want to show the house. And those agents sometimes are intimidated to ask for proof of funds. Culturally, sometimes people are nervous to give a proof of funds letter out. And that's a lesson I learned really early on. One of my first very big paychecks that we talked about last time came that way. Came by somebody who was a 19-year-old musician who misled me. I had a listing that was well under $1 million across the street from a $6 million listing. And it was the $6 million listing was listed by a guy who had been in the industry 30 plus years, a veteran that I knew very well, somebody that I had looked up to. And this 19-year-old person had called based on his sign outside the house and said, hey, I'd like to look at your listing. I would love to preview it. And he sounded very young on the phone. So the agent said, why don't you have your mommy and daddy give me a call, and hung up on him. So he saw my sign across the street for a property that was worth almost a tenth of that property, and called and said, I'd like to see the house. So I show up there and he goes, I have no interest in seeing this house. I want you to get me into that property. So I knew the agent. I called and I said, I'd really like to get into this house. You know, I don't have proof of funds, but you know, I knew who he was, and he gave me access to the property, and the guy bought the house. And this is quite a ways back when people showed up to the closing table. And I remember seeing the size of that check, and it was the biggest check I had ever seen in my life. And it was so exciting to me. And the whole time I was thinking, if this guy was actually nice or gave this person a chance to even talk to him on the phone for 5 minutes to understand who he was or ask his name, he would have realized he's a very able buyer, and he would have had a check for twice that amount of money. And I try not to forget those things. So when I talk to an agent who sounds like they really want to gain access to the property, I try to ask a couple of questions, or there's no harm in sometimes going out and showing a property, just one property sometimes, or show them a vacant property where you're not inconveniencing a seller, to try to find out who the buyer is and maybe why they don't have proof of funds. Yes, you might waste 30, 45 minutes of your time, but you also might meet a buyer who is a legitimate buyer who's going to buy a multi-million-dollar home that you might make a huge commission check from by just meeting that agent or building a great relationship and showing them a property where every other agent has, you know, blown them off and doesn't want to waste their time with them. And, you know, today we have so many different places like WealthX, like Google, like a million other places you can call to try to vet a person to find out if they're a credible buyer. And worst thing you've done is had a dry run and showed your property, and you did a dress rehearsal, and you're better prepared for the next time you have a buyer for the property. And you know, we're all pretty good judges of character. You know, you meet a client the first time and you hang out with them for 30 minutes, and you never know. But it's really hard to judge a book by its cover. You know, it's really easy for somebody to rent a fancy car and look the part and play the part. But I've sold some of the most expensive homes to people who show up in an average car and are wearing jeans and flip-flops, and they don't look like they are going to buy a multi-million-dollar house. And those are usually the first people who are willing to write a big check. They don't need financing. They don't have an issue. And it's usually the person who shows up in a big fancy car with a big fancy diamond ring, and then they write an offer and the bank says, well, we have financing issues, or they're not able to qualify for the loan. Because sometimes the people who wear all their wealth on the outside and they drive up in their biggest asset are the ones who are going to have an issue qualifying for that property. So I always say, give people the benefit of the doubt. You'll be pleasantly surprised. And that's always been one of my biggest advices, is just try to stay, you know, it's following the advice that people don't want to give you. It's the things that people say don't work. you know, that $30 million listing that you mentioned earlier, I sold that property 10 years ago, and it was the biggest sale in the city. And it held a record for many, many years. And that's a property that came through door knocking, which I'd never done before. And people said doesn't work. And that's a property that I had read an article about online, and I knew of the client, but I did not know them personally. And I just thought, okay, this person's having an issue right now, and I should go talk to them instead of waiting for somebody else to approach them, instead of waiting for something to happen. But I have no way of gaining access to them, so let me go knock on the door and talk to them about it. And you know, people go, well, you can't knock on the door of, you know, of somebody of that stature. You can't knock on the $30 million door and talk to somebody. And that's exactly what I did. And I knocked on the door, and I left a note with the gardener when they didn't answer. And they called me back, and I listed the property. And not only did I list the property, but I also sold it to our own buyer, and I double-ended a $30 million listing, which to this day is still the biggest paycheck of my career, double-ending a $30 million property. And that simply came from door knocking on a $30 million property where everybody said you can't door knock on that, and that's ridiculous.
That
Maria, I can't hear you.
I'm so sorry. One of the things too, Zar, that I think would be great is if that you did mention it last time too. Tell them a little bit about you, because I know that one of the things you told us last time is you're Persian, but you didn't know that was part of being Asian. And then Arya recognized you as the 2020 one of the superstars and the 50 million plus selling, and you're like, I'm not Asian. Tell them about your background and you, because I think what's important too is the fact that anyone can work hard, and that's what you've done. And that's what I want to tell everyone, you know, so tell them a little bit about that. It's important that they understand your background.
Yeah, we always limit ourselves so much, and we have a habit of doing that, saying like, oh, well, I'm really good at selling here. I'm really good at selling to this demographic. I'm really good at selling in this town or within this price range. And we kind of become our own worst enemy. We limit ourselves, and we limit ourselves to an area where I think we don't need to do that. You should be invincible. You should think, well, if somebody else is doing that, I'm just as good or better. And I was always trained to know, like, if you're an immigrant or if you're this, stay focused within this price range, and this is your limitation. And I was just so eager to do bigger and better things that I just went for it when everybody else said you can't do that. And you can't do that to me meant, well, let me prove you wrong. Let me go out there and do it. And that's exactly what I did when people said, well, you can't sell in a country club unless you live in there. I was like, well, I'm not going to get millions of dollars by sitting around, and I can't just live in a country club. So let me figure out how I can mingle with those people and move into there. But I didn't realize. I just thought I was a Persian kid who grew up in Spain. So people didn't know if I was Latino or if I was Persian or what I was, because I speak Spanish as my primary language. I speak Farsi as the language that I spoke at home. And then I learned how to speak English when I was a teenager. But out of nowhere, years ago, Arya called and said, you're one of the top Asian realtors in the country. And I was with a client in the car, and I said, thank you very much. I'm not Asian. I got to go. Click. And I hung up the phone. And being so polite as we Asian people are, they called back the next day and they said, well, please don't hang up, but you're one of the top Asian realtors in the country, and you're one of the top 25, and we'd like you to come to New York and accept an award. And I said, thank you very much, but I told you yesterday I'm not Asian. And a year ago, the Latino Association had given me an award for being one of the top Latino agents. I was like, I'm really not, but thank you very much. And then they're like, before you hang up, are you not Persian? I said, well, yes, I am technically. I'm 100% Persian, actually. But I'm not Asian. And they go, well, the Middle East happens to be in Asia. And this sounds a little silly, but 23 of us are Asian and look Asian, and there's you and a girl from India who look a little different, but India and Iran are both technically in Asia, so we'd really like for you to come and accept this award. And the light bulb like went off in my head. I was like, holy crap, I'm Asian. And then I Googled it and I was like, I think I'm Asian. And that was the first time I realized, I guess I'm Asian. And then a couple years later, I joined their board, and they slowly sucked me into their group. And I'm so excited because it's just such a powerful group of professionals that do such great work in DC to represent minority groups. They've done such a great thing. Almost 6, 7 years ago, we went to DC to lobby for the right to be accounted because the US Census never had a little box for Asian Americans. It was the other box, which sounds so ridiculous. But they did not count Asians, it was other. So they started the No Other campaign so they could be accounted for. And in many states, like my home state of Nevada or California, Asians are the fastest growing demographic. Everybody thinks it's Latino, but it's actually Asian. And many companies pay attention to that demographic because it's a powerful one. And people just assume, well, they don't need representation because, Asians are all rich and they're all smart. And that's not true. When you look at human trafficking and other serious concerns, some of the people that are most affected by that are the Asian population. So I'm very motivated by the work that they do, and I do love being part of that organization.
Thank you, Zar. I think it's important because a lot of people did not know your background. And I know you've been even on the ARIA diversity film and talked about the rough time you had when people at a restaurant overheard, and we mentioned this last time, that they were really saying negative things about you because they didn't know you. And I think it's important for every single person here to know that they have so much potential, and we're so proud of every one of them because they're all rock stars. So anything that you can, any little stories, because I think where you really touch the heart is the fact that you're very everyday. You're very open about being Persian. You're open about being gay. You're open about being a realtor. You're open about everything. And I think that's important because you're being you, and that's why you are successful.
Well, I think that is so important to represent yourself and represent every part of yourself in a positive way, first and foremost, because you're not going to be able to hide what you are and who you are. And the more you do that, the more I think somebody is going to try to use that against you at some point. So you take that away from them, the more you show how proud you are of what you are and who you are, and represent yourself in a positive way. And we've talked about this, and that's what is so amazing about your group is that you always treat each other with respect and you keep a positive attitude, and you're a team player all the time. And I've always had that attitude, whether it's with wait staff at a restaurant or whether it's my client's housekeeper. I just always have a very cheerful, positive attitude with them because you never know where your next client's going to come from. And just because it's nice to be a good person, it just nobody likes a crappy person. I've always been that way, and so many times it just benefits you to be a nice person, and it comes back to you whether it's a client's housekeeper that something happens to the client, and the housekeeper comes back and says, this agent said this, or the housekeeper goes, well, the client, I mean, it's literally happened where a client has passed away, and they've told the housekeeper, well, of all the agents who were in here, like, who was the one you'd recommend? Because the only person who was in the house when the house was getting shown was the housekeeper. And the housekeeper goes, that's the only person who ever said hello to me. That's the only person who ever greeted me. That's the person who took the most care of the house and helped turn off the lights and, helped put the dog back in the house when they were done showing it, versus the other agents who don't say hello and treat the housekeeper like crap and leave the house and don't care about it. So I've always been extremely respectful to everybody around me because I consider myself, when people go like, oh, you're so lucky, you're going out to dinner with, you're going out to dinner with Mariah Carey afterwards. And I go, no, I'm part of the staff. I'm no different than the chef or the housekeeper or the butler. I just and got paid really well for the job that I did. but I consider myself just the same level as everybody else. And I've been very fortunate to be treated well for it. And there's countless stories of that where, sometimes it's not, it's sometimes you have a positive attitude and people snap you back to reality and you realize people sometimes suck. And that's part of that Arya video that I think it's a 5-minute video that talks about diversity. That's a very powerful video that was played in DC for a lot of our politicians. And that's a video where talks about, a broker that I looked up to for a long time in our industry. And I had just closed a big multi-million-dollar deal and I felt very proud of myself. I even wrote a handwritten note to the broker, thanking him for how amazing it was working with his staff. And then a waiter at the country club who knew me and, I was friendly to and was kind enough. He overheard conversations that were being had between this broker and his management team that were very negative. And he heard it and he was so bothered by it that he actually took his cell phone and put it in his pocket while he was waiting on these folks. And the things that he overheard being said about me were so horrific. And he sent me like a 30-second clip of it. And he said, here's what's being said. And there were horrible things, like racial things and things like, how does that faggot keep selling houses in this neighborhood? And how did he get into this price point? And I never did anything about it, although it could be a huge violation. But then you just realize, sometimes people who are so nice to your face say such horrible things behind your back. And that waiter had no reason to do it. He wasn't being asked to do it. I never bribed anybody to do it. He just knew how those people treated him and the rest of the staff at the country club. And he knew how I treated him when I go in there with clients. And he just did it because he just thought, you should know how ugly people are behind your back versus how you treat people when you're here. And I still see that person and I still smile, but I just know how people treat you behind your back sometimes. And you got to keep chucking along. And things like that affect you for a moment. And sometimes you're disappointed, but you just wake up the next day and you are just a little bit stronger and more motivated to do better. And little by little, I've done more transactions in that community and they've done less and less because every time a client is in that neighborhood, having breakfast in the country club, having an event in there, and they're talking about possibly selling their home and buying a bigger one or downsizing or something, and the staff in the country club is overhearing something, they go, oh my God, Zar's like around the corner in the pro shop with another client. You should talk to him or something. And they nudge somebody to work with you because they respect you and they know that you're a nice person versus the other people that they hear constantly saying negative things. And you never know who's listening. So it's nice to be a nice person. It's as simple as that. And you just never know who's paying attention to the things you're saying and doing. So I jokingly always say when people go, oh my God, how'd you sell that? I always say, oh, I got lucky. And the people who know me well, they go, oh, you got lucky. I say I got lucky because the people who are stupid or naive or jealous, they go like, son of a gun, he got lucky. And the people who know me, they go, yes, I got lucky because being lucky, I think, is a combination of being in the right place, being there when the opportunity presents itself. But it's also so much more than that. It's being prepared and knowing being what you're supposed to do at the right time. It's not only are you supposed to be there, but you're supposed to be there and you're supposed to know your crap. You're supposed to know what the comps are. You're supposed to know who the people are. You're supposed to be ready to go. This week, I showed a property to a client from Hawaii who came to me from a referral, and immediately they started talking about wanting to live on one street and one street only. And they go, well, what number should we offer? And I said, you can only negotiate about 5% on this street. The properties move very quickly. And this is the price per square foot you need to be at. And this is the price per square foot the homes sell for once they're renovated. And I just started spitting out numbers out of the top of my head. And because they were referred from a very well-to-do client, they trusted me and they go, okay, fine, there's only one home on this street. Let's make an offer. But 2-3 hours later, they went home and they sent me a text message and they had double checked everything that came out of my mouth just naturally, like diarrhea of the mouth. And they go, oh my God, we looked up 5 houses that have sold in the last 3 years. 5.4% below the asking price, and you said 5%, you were right on the money. And they all sold within 37 days, and you said they take about 30 days to sell. And like, how did you know that? And I'm like, well, I was prepared, and I've sold a lot of houses on this street. And you know, people go like, oh my God, you got so lucky. Like, so and so told these people they should talk to you about buying a house, and next thing you know, there's one house, and like, you just write an offer on it. Yes, I got lucky, but I didn't just get lucky. I knew I was prepared. And I wake up every morning and I get alerts on my phone from everything that's transacted on that street. And I'm a little obsessed with my job, yes. Like, but I love it. I do enjoy my job. People make fun of me because I take a shower and I put my phone in a Ziploc bag and I take it to the shower with me because I don't want to miss a call. And I know that sounds so silly, but if somebody's calling from Singapore, somebody's calling from out of the country, I don't want to miss a call that is possibly going to call my competition, and I might miss a opportunity that could change something. You know, when I got the phone call from Michael Jackson that changed my life, I could have easily deleted that email. I could have missed that phone call, and everything. It could have been a huge butterfly effect. My whole career could have taken a different turn. So I'm so grateful for those opportunities. So yes, is it silly to stick your phone in a Ziploc bag and take it to the shower with you? Yeah, absolutely. Do I answer every time somebody calls? No. You know, if it's a client who I talk to 5 times a day, I'll call them back when I'm done rinsing my hair. But if it's a phone call from out of the country that I don't know what it's going to be, I might just answer it in the middle of taking a shower. I might step out of the shower with conditioner in my hair to answer and see what it is, because you never know what it could be. And it's so exciting to be in real estate because you never know. Every day is different. And you never know when the phone's going to ring and something exciting that could potentially just change your whole day, your month, your quarter, or your life is just a phone call away.
So Zar, I like what you just said, and you kind of put it in terms that I can relate to, but I'm going to take a tip from you.
Okay.
I don't have hair to do shampoo and stuff like that, but I take my phone to the bathroom, but now I'm going to get a Ziploc bag because that's like key information right there.
Yeah.
But tell me something, you know, for all the agents that are on this call who are just really fantasizing about getting involved with a celebrity client, if you had to maybe put it as 4 specific things that each person can do tomorrow that can get them notice or get them celebrity clients, what would you say are 4 things they absolutely must do besides the phone in the shower and, you know, that kind of stuff?
You don't have to be embarrassed to brag about yourself when you're doing something brag worthy. You know, you can't always be out there bragging, bragging, bragging. But if you are listing something amazing, if you're selling something amazing, if you're breaking a price per square foot in a neighborhood, if you're not bragging about it, nobody else is going to mention it. So you have to mention it. You have to advertise yourself. You have to market yourself. And today with social media, there's no easier way of doing it. There's no cheaper way of doing it. So you have to create your own hype when it comes to those things. It's so easy to tag your local newspaper, magazine, your local news channel on those things. Share that with them. There's always a news director or a newspaper editor looking for an angle to a story on a slow news day. And those kinds of things will get you noticed. And before you know it, it could lead to an article about a sale, an article about interest rates going up or down, an article about the real estate market going up in a certain zip code, or anything. There's always an angle to something, and sometimes it's nice for you to feed those things to the media, and then your phone starts ringing. So it's nice to promote yourself in that way and enjoy some of the hype, because nobody else is going to do it for you. There's thousands of other realtors out there who are all trying to do the same thing. Some of them do it really well. Some of them don't take any advantage of it. So I think it's important to do that for yourself first and foremost.
Thank you.
Yeah. So why don't we open it up for some questions if
Yes.
you want to, because I think that's probably the most fun part of this, is to kind of have a conversation and answer questions that people might have.
I agree, because last time they had so many different questions and then we logged off and everyone was like, oh, I didn't get to ask my question. So please ask questions so we can hear some more wonderful stories from Zar. And I also wanted to give a shout out to our CEO, Margie Grant, and also our fabulous leadership team. I know Tim's out there, and I think a couple of others. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you already heard from Mike. So just wanted to give a shout out from our leaders that are, besides the leaders that are already on these fabulous committees, that are also joining us and showing how important global and diversity are to Florida Real. So ask away so we can get Zar to tell us a couple more amazing stories. Zar, in the meantime, why don't you tell us, is there a really cool property that you just listed or something that was fabulous? Because I know you told us about the last one, but something really amazing that you've seen or you just put together or heard that they might enjoy while they're doing some questions.
Oh my gosh, well, that $30 million one is pretty amazing. It's the most famous house in Vegas, I would say. It's the famous Shenandoah Ranch, which was Wayne Newton's home, seen in Vegas Family Vacation. MTV Cribs said it's the most expensive home. Besides, the only thing more expensive than that was Richard Branson's private island. So it even has a jumbo jet parked on the property, which comes with the property. So it's got a plane and a hangar on the property. It's got a 100-car museum attached and an exotic zoo animal that even comes with a penguin farm, peacocks, flamingos. I mean, it's quite a unique property. So it's been in the family for more than 60 years. And when we sold it 10 years ago, the plan was to develop it into a community of 80 custom homes, and that did not happen. And it may or may not happen this time, but it's been there's been a lot of interest on it this time around, and it's going to be really interesting what happens with it this time. So that's probably the most unique property we have at the moment.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
So right now with the current environment and the virus and everything that's happening, you've seemed to continue your string of successes selling these homes. Can you tell us or give us any advice or anything that may have changed in the way you market? Have you changed anything? How have you adapted given the current environment that we have, especially on the luxury end?
Yeah, we haven't had to adapt too much because a lot of things we were doing prior were things that we're really enjoying the benefit of now. Things like doing 3D virtual tours, dollhouse tours, really advanced online marketing for the properties. So we've moved a lot of our inventory because we were ahead of the curve, things that a lot of people were not previously doing, spending that extra $1,200 for all the tours online so the properties can be best seen by people who may not be able to come preview them in person. So I strongly encourage everybody to do that, regardless of the price point of the property, considering a lot of people are scared to come preview homes in person now. So the only thing that has changed is we've had more FaceTime tours. We've had more people who are demanding to see floor plans and demanding to see 3D tours of properties. But we haven't had to adapt too much other than forwarding those to them. We haven't had to go out to shoot videos of those properties. And showing a property to somebody on FaceTime or showing it to them in person is not too different. Instead of them walking beside you, they're now you're just holding your phone and touring them through the property. Describing the neighborhood and the properties to them on the phone or in person seems to be very similar to me. But now having to forward them information online about the demographics and the neighborhoods and all those things is the only thing that's a bit different. But much like our state, your state, I assume, is an area where a lot of people move there for tax benefits and for financial reasons to get away from other tax states. So we're really benefiting from the pandemic from that. People have slowed down and realized maybe now it's the time to make the move. People who were on the fence about it or thinking about it. So it's actually helped us move a lot of listings more than ever before, which has been a pleasant surprise for us.
Okay, wonderful. We have a question from Lynn, and she wants to know, do you have a mentor? And if so, how important is that relationship to your growth?
That is a question that comes up so often, and I've gone back and forth about wanting one or not wanting one. I have never had one. For a long time, successful agent seems to have one, and they have a great network of them. For me, I always thought, well, if I have one, I might start doing all the things that all the other agents do. And that's one of the hesitations I had about getting one. Where I do see a huge advantage on a mentor is where they have a great network of successful agents that work together and they refer business to each other. But I've never had a mentor. I don't think they're bad. I think it just depends on your personality whether you need one or not. What I do have is a good network of other agents around the country that are high performing luxury agents that I communicate with often. We bounce ideas off of each other, and then there's a lot of accountability that you hold each other to. So whether you find that in a mentor or in a group, I think that's important. But I personally do not have a mentor.
Okay. All right. So I'm looking to see if we have any other questions. Please remember you can submit your questions via the chat so that we can get them answered.
We do have one, Carlos. Zar, do you have a coach? And I did want to comment that although he said he didn't have a mentor, he's got an amazing family that is, you know, his mother, he's very close to his mom and his family. So that's kind of like a little bit of a mentor. But we did have a question from Diane, and she would like to know if you have a coach.
No, the coach and the mentor I kind of look at as the same. And I've never had a coach, but I do have people that I look up in the industry that I go to for advice. Sometimes there are other brokers in my own marketplace. Sometimes they're veterans of the industry and good friends. A person that I rely on often for advice is like Craig Hogan from Coldwell Banker. He works at corporate and Realogy. I think he's a rock star in the industry, and that's a person that I will go to sometimes for advice on many things luxury specifically. So he's a person that I would look up to as a coach or a mentor, but it's not somebody that I pay. It's not somebody that I have regular sessions with. It's more of a friend that I look to for advice, and I have many friends like that. I have many people that are the best luxury broker in their marketplace from all around the country that I would bounce ideas off of or look to for advice when I need some advice. But I definitely don't have a coach or mentor.
While we wait for a question too, everyone knows that you're part of ARIA. In fact, that's how we met, is ARIA. And I think it would be great if you just, and you mentioned it a little bit, but how important it is to be part, and you mentioned the National Hispanic Association of Realtors, the Asian Realtors, our realist friends, our, all the different associations that are related to real estate, but then have key niches that are great and part of this great group that we have in here, because I know a lot of our members, as I look here on the screen, are members of these associations. How you connect with them and how you've been able to use that also to share your message and learn and also teach them as well.
Well, I think it's important to communicate with agents from around the country, especially the more high-level business you do. The more you start working with international clients, the more you start working with high net worth individuals. Real estate is a conversation everybody loves to have. It's an organic conversation. When you tell people the industry you're in, they automatically want to start engaging with you and asking you questions about what you do and what you're seeing. And when you're dealing with multi-million-dollar real estate, most often people have homes all over the country. So when you're associating with whatever organization you're a part of, and you're traveling with these people, you're meeting agents from many different types of markets. And I think it's so important to have knowledge, even if you have a little bit of knowledge about many different markets, you're sharing that with your client. It's so important to have those little nuggets of information. And a part of business that a lot of people don't capitalize in our industry is the referral business. So often our clients even check in on us with social media and they go, oh my God, I noticed you were in Chicago and you went to a beautiful open house, or I noticed you were in New York and you were at a $40 million penthouse. And then they go, well, we're looking for a place in New York. And I go, that's amazing. I'm not very well versed in New York, but I have a dear sometimes a referral check is much bigger. You know, a penthouse in New York City is much bigger than most houses in Vegas. So that referral check might be way bigger than a property I might list for that same client here in Vegas. So I think it's so important to remember that and try to capitalize on that. And it's the ultimate compliment when your client considers you for properties in a different country, for properties in a different city. They automatically think, let me just call my agent that I trust to get their opinion on a property in LA or New York or in a different country. It's such a huge compliment when they automatically think of you and they come to you first, or they ask you for your opinion or for a referral. I just always consider that the ultimate compliment. And being part of those different organizations makes that such a smooth transaction. I hate the fact that somebody says, well, I'm thinking of looking for a place in LA, and you go, give me a day or two and I'll call you back, because that automatically says, well, I'm going to go dig up somebody and try to call a couple of places and figure out somebody, versus, oh my God, in LA, I have a great friend. You know, her name is Jade Mills. She just sold a $30 million house. She's the #1 agent in LA. She's amazing. You're going to love her. You know, her kid is this. You have kids the same age, blah, blah, blah. And they go, oh my God, you really know this person. And you go, of course I know her. She's, you know, she's a top producer. She sold $300 million worth of houses last year. She's phenomenal. You're good. And they immediately feel so comfortable. As soon as you mention that, they breathe easily and they go, great, can you send me her number? And you go, absolutely. I'm going to make an email introduction in just a moment. And before the end of the day, she'll reach out to you. And the client immediately feels like they're in great hands with you. And that's the confidence that most people want. And that's just like my client from earlier this week, where, you know, I told them everything about the street where they want to buy a home. Once somebody is handed off smoothly like that, there's a sense of confidence that they get that makes everything from beginning to end of the transaction much smoother.
Great. So I have another question from Paula Opa. And Paula wants to know, what type of marketing do you produce? How do you reach out to your past clients? And IRS says $25 only. So how do you give gifts to your famous clients?
So, oh my gosh, that's a lot of good questions. We try to stay in constant communication with our clients. You know, I believe, as much as people say print is dead, I believe in things like postcards still to remain relevant. You know, it's true, not many people will pick up the phone from a postcard and give you a call, but when they constantly see postcards and they see your name and then they see you face to face, or the neighbor says, oh my God, Zar just sold my house, you should give him a call, and they've seen postcards from you every month for the last year, it makes a connection in their head that they just need. It's that last connection before they pick up the phone and they call you. So I think multiple forms of being a constant reminder to them are important. I also believe in just random check-ins, you know, send them a message on Facebook every once in a while, send a text message. Hey, I was just in the neighborhood. I was driving past you on my way to a showing and I saw you jogging with the dog. Just wanted to say hello. This morning, I just got a message from our governor's wife saying, oh my God, I just saw you sold the neighbor's house. Congratulations. It's so good to see, you know, you're doing so well. And I responded with, you know, a very sweet message, and I hadn't heard from them in 9 months. It's just always important to, I think, to remain in constant communication with them. And then we also obviously have systems like we use the Buffini communication system to remain in constant communication with our clients virtually as well. So there's multiple layers, I think, and you need a combination of all of those. We randomly send clients handwritten notes as well when something comes up, an anniversary of when they bought their home, a birthday, anything that pops up. But because of social media, because of text messaging, because of all the different beautiful tools that we have today, I think it's easier than ever to try to stay in communication with your clients. And as far as gifts go, you know, there's no gift that I can give to my clients to blow them away. Most of my clients, I consider myself so fortunate that so many of our clients give me gifts that are like sometimes embarrassing. But there's not any gift that really sometimes you can give a client that buys a $10 million house that you're sometimes things that are personal from the heart mean the most. You know, I live in the historic district of Vegas, so I live downtown, but I have a very big backyard and I have chickens in my backyard. So one thing that I do is when clients hear that, they go, "What? You live in the middle of the city and you have chickens?" So every Easter, I go to the store, and after Easter's over, I buy all the Easter baskets that are like 75% off, and I buy a ton of them. And I put a little bit of hay in there, and I use my fresh eggs from my chickens that cost me nothing, because I don't eat that many eggs. I eat like 2 or 3 a week, and that's it. But the girls are laying every single day. So I put my own beautiful, organic, fresh eggs that were laid, and they're all pretty because I have many different styles of chicken, and they all lay different color eggs. So I have pink eggs and blue eggs and brown eggs and white eggs. So I just put eggs in a basket and I drop them off for my clients, and that doesn't cost me more than a couple of bucks. Sometimes I put some organic fruit or nice ribbon or chocolate or a glass of wine or something in there too, and I drop that off for them, and it's not about the cost of it. But I get the nicest messages. I'll get a text message with a picture of an omelet, and they go, "I just made this amazing omelet, and these eggs are so good," or "the yolks are so pretty. I can't believe you have these at home every day." And it's something simple, but it's something that means a lot from them. And sometimes when you're selling them a house, you're paying attention, and they go, "You know, I love the picture of this house. Like the picture of the pool is so beautiful. That's what sold me on the house." And maybe we'll get that picture and we'll have it painted, or we'll get it framed and we'll give that to them as a gift. It's just always nice to be paying attention to what it is about the property that they like or what sold them on the property. And you give that to them, but I don't have a standard gift that it's not like, oh, every client gets a Gucci keychain, or it's nothing silly like that. It's always something that's a little more personal to them. And I think that means more than anything else, especially for a wealthy client who can afford to buy anything they want for themselves.
Very unique advice, wonderful, ideas, and that's why you're you. That's why you're Zar.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another question. So we see that you've made quite a name for yourself. People know you, your brand is great. But how important is it for the brokerage brand name or for an agent to have a national brokerage recognition? And is that something that high net worth individuals look for?
That's a tough question. And I've definitely been on both sides of that conversation. I've worked for most of the big brands at some point in my career. I now own my own brokerage, and it's an independent company here in Vegas. I think we touched on this last time, that I think the luxury branding and clients remember how you make them feel more than anything else. The way you make somebody feel and the transaction they had with you is what they remember. Most people don't remember your company name; they remember your name. So I think that's the most important. But if you're a new agent, or you're just starting in your career, you're starting in a certain marketplace, sometimes it's nice to have either the national brand or a team which you can lean on. You can lean on their resume. You can lean on their sales and say, my company has done this or my team has done this. But I think in the big picture, whenever you talk to clients, and whenever I worked at big companies and small companies, whenever you ask the client about it, at the end of the day, most of them didn't even remember what company you worked for. They just remember you. They said, "Well, Carlos is my agent, and I had a great experience." And you go, "Well, where does Carlos work?" They're like, "Oh, I don't know, KW, Remax, I don't know. It's Carlos. We really had a good experience with him." It wasn't necessarily the company that they remember, because maybe that's the first thing they remember. But after they meet you once or twice, they just know you and they remember you and the experience they had with you. And then the rest of it just kind of disappears.
Wonderful. That's really great advice, and I can relate because when I first started, I thought it was about the company, and then I quickly realized, as you said, the people said, no, it's about you. So
Yeah.
Maria has some comments. We have one last question because you've had some great experiences and some great stories. And without calling names, I know you deal with celebrities, you might not be able to call names, but can you tell us about probably your most fun client and then probably your worst client?
Well, I can definitely tell you about my most fun client, and that one's very easy. My most fun client, without a doubt, ever is going to be Michael Jackson. I mean, he was just a person who changed my life and changed my career completely. And I don't remember if we talked about this last time, but he came to me in the form of an email. In the form of an email that most people would delete or not respond to. And he was, you know, a quirky email that said, "Hey, I live in a castle, and I'm interested in looking at this property." And, you know, it was one of those Nigerian prince type of emails that most people would not respond to. And I thought, well, I have nothing to lose. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Let me just send a quick reply. And that reply was a 6 month interaction, back and forth, back and forth. And eventually, you know, a week before I met him, after 6 months, somebody said, "Well, you know who you're talking to, right?" And I go, "Some guy who lives in a castle in Ireland." And it sure enough ended up being Michael. And not only did he become a client, but he became a really good friend that I was close to and did multiple transactions with and spent holidays and birthdays with. And once we had a very nice friendship and a bond. He introduced me to many other people who kind of gave me my position in life, in my career. And then he helped me get on television with Anderson Cooper on CNN, and that became an ongoing gig. And one thing led to another, and here I am today.
Wonderful. And without naming names, maybe something that didn't go so well.
Well, you know, there's some really big divas out there, and you know, I've been sitting in a house up to 3 o'clock in the morning, waiting for people to show up. I've had one celebrity cancel a total of 27 times. I've been stood up by the same person. She did eventually show up, but it was 27 times of "I'll be there," and then, you know, something happened. But 27 times, usually most people give up, and I did not give up. So
Hopefully she purchased on the 27th time.
after a while, yeah.
Okay. Well, you've really, again, once again, imparted lots of good little tips that we as realtors who aspire to be just better people. And your humility is unbelievable. And I think that's a huge part of your success. So, I say to you, more power to you for being so uh, humble with all the people that you deal with. And I think, like you said, throughout the whole time, just be you and just be yourself. So again, I'm always excited to chat with you. Always great to see your big, warm smile. And we just want to thank you again for coming back to give us more. And we hope that, when convention comes around, if you happen to be in our area, we'd love to have you come down. If we're doing a global trip, maybe, or we're out in Vegas, maybe we'll get to do a tour of your homes or something. But, between diversity and global and all our realtors, there's always something that we can find common ground on. So
Oh,
thank you so much again, Zar.
thank you guys for the warm welcome. Thank you for the platform, and I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you.
Carlos, you could not have said it better. I want you to know that yesterday when I spoke to Zar, one of the things that I happened to mention is convention. And I said, I can just see you coming back at some point and speaking at a global and diversity meeting and getting to really know our members, because they have really feel like he's part of the family. I mean, everybody is like, "Oh, Zar, oh yes, I'm going to be, I have to listen, listen in." Cannot thank you enough, Zar, from our superheroes that I mentioned earlier and all of our members. We're so grateful and thankful that you take time out, because honestly, I reached out to him and I said, "Hey, do you think you're available?" And he goes, "I'll make it work." And that's how he's very humble. He's like, "I will make it work." And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, he's so busy, but he always makes it work. And that's part of what I think we learn from him is we have to be humble. We have to care about each other. We have to connect, and we always can make it work if we put time into it. So thank you so much. And we will have you back. I know we will.
I appreciate
I thank you. I do want to mention something too, that we have several events coming up. So you're going to be hearing about them soon. September 17th and 18th is SILA, which is the Federation of Latin American associations, 19 countries represented, and several of our Spanish and Portuguese speaking members are on here. So mucho gusto, gracias por participar. They are going to host their convention in, it's SILA in Peru together. And the exciting news that we learned of yesterday, and we'll be getting out to everybody, is the fact that it will be now translated into English so that all of us can take advantage of it. So we'll be getting information out to everyone on that. And we have more exciting events coming up in October and November and December. So keep an eye out for more exciting things. And we cannot thank you enough for participating. And Zar, as always, is amazing. He is part of our global family and we appreciate it. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Zar.
Thank you.
Great job, guys. Thank you so much.
Carlos, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Everybody did a great job. And Zara, as always, was amazing and everybody loved it. So
I
I
sent him
didn't take pictures. I took one picture. I
Right.
totally forgot.
Well,
I
we
think
were
Paula did.
soaking up so much information because, it's funny. I said to him privately in the chat that, I thank him for some of his advice from last time because I just landed a nice client and it landed me in The Real Deal, which is a publication for celebrities that buy houses. So it's
Oh, wow.
pretty cool. His advice is simple, but yet, if you apply it, people see the real you, and humility is great when you're dealing with these really super rich people. Yeah. So awesome job, Maria. Thank you so much for finding Zar. You're on mute. You're on mute.